Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. And if you're joining for the first time, this is part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. We review one of the vendors or the solutions. And for today, we have another very exciting vendor from the marketing automation community. So we are going to have a lot of fun discussing that. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's quick intros. I'm your host, Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent, vendor agnostic ERP, CRM, digital transformation consulting firm. We are known as slightly more buy-side advisory firm overall. On that note, Shrestha, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Hi, everyone. My name is Shrestha Dash, and I'm part of the marketing team at Elevate IQ. Looking forward to learn a lot about ActiveCampaign today.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for being here, Shrestha. And if you're in the audience and joining for the first time, we are always a big fan of creating the whole three-way conversation. So make sure you guys post your any sort of experiences you have with the platform, any stories, or if you are able to relate with anything that we are speaking, we would love to hear that. So on that note, Shrestha, I'm gonna start with the quick briefing of this solution. And In this particular case, I mean, we have reviewed a lot of different marketing automation players, and marketing automation could be all over the place in general. There are many different layers or the segmentation, the way these categories or the platforms are structured in the market. One of the biggest layers that we have seen is B2B versus B2C. So for ActiveCampaign, they are sort of going to be all over the place, I guess. Yes, they started as more of the B2C, but they also have a lot of market share now in B2B as well. But again, the platforms that are designed for B2C, they are fairly unique, and the kind of workflows that they are going to have, the kind of integrations that they are going to have, are generally very different. So we are going to touch on all of those layers. uh, Overall, analyzing this from all of different categories that we have reviewed so far, marketing automation is just one of the bucket inside the CRM portfolio. Generally, the larger players are going to have different layers of layers, or bundles, I would say it's probably the right term. Sometimes they call this as more of the different clouds. So you're going to have sales cloud, marketing cloud, customer service cloud, etc. And marketing automation is going to be just one of the buckets there. Now, one of the trends that we have seen, at least in the B2C community, is that they have much tighter alignment overall with CDP. That you are not going to find in the B2B space, just because CDP is not going to be as relevant. So, for example, if you go to solutions like Microsoft Customer Insights, even though they are going to call that, it's sort of CDP, it's sort of marketing automation, but that is probably designed more for B2C centric verticals if you are going to have any sort of CDP centric flavors. So with ActiveCampaign, you are probably not going to find all of that. So before we dig deeper into their core positioning, let's talk about different sources that we have used for this presentation. And overall, from the content sources perspective, our first preference always is going to be financial statements, because that's where we find the truth. But in this particular case, it's not a public company, so they don't necessarily have the financial statements. So our first source here is going to be any sort of historical news stories that they have published, and we are simply going to review them. We are going to offer our version, our commentary in terms of how we are seeing the market, and how other vendors in this space are positioning themselves. Then we also tie the dots and connect the dots with many different perspectives. We are going to look at product design. Obviously, we review the marketing material, but marketing material generally has a lot more fluff that we don't necessarily use for our analysis. If that is going to be consistent with our understanding of the market, we utilize that. But I mean, we are looking at if they are claiming a specific capability, we are trying to validate that through the financial material, through product design analysis, any sort of customer stories, what customers are feeling, what they are saying, user communities, as well as the Reddit threads. And generally, the way we utilize the any source of information is if we are going to notice any sort of trend, then we use that information. And this is for the audience who might be joining our reviews for the first time. This is the process that we follow for every single review that we have done. So now coming back to ActiveCampaign. So in this particular case, in our mind, their positioning is going to be their email automation platform. Obviously, if you look at their marketing material, they are going to position them as slightly differently, but sometimes that could be misleading. They might be overlapping with different categories, and they might not mean it, but they might not have all of those capabilities of those categories. So we are providing our version of how we are seeing, based on their offerings as of today and how they are positioned in the market. So in our mind, their capabilities are going to be aligned more towards the email automation category, and this is going to be for slightly more price sensitive customers. That's how they got so much market share. They were one of the cheapest. And one of the layers that you're going to find in the marketing automation community is the send limit for emails that 90% of the platforms have. But ActiveCampaign traditionally did not have that. And that was one of the major points for companies to move to ActiveCampaign. For example, if they go to HubSpot, the pricing would be substantially more with HubSpot or any similar platforms, and that's why they used to go for ActiveCampaign. But now, with the newer funding, newer investors, things changed. So even their pricing is different. It might still be lower than, for example, HubSpot, but they are going to be substantially more expensive now. Okay, so in this particular case, they are going to have capabilities both for B2C and B2B. At least that's how they position themselves. But if you look at their capabilities, they are still very well, friendlier for B2C centric verticals. They are not going to be as friendly for B2B, but they definitely have some logos for B2B as well. And again, if you look at their core positioning, how they started, and we are going to look at all of those stories. Initially, they were very B2C centric, but then they started getting in the B2B space as well. And customers, when they are reviewing any sort of platforms in the B2B space, for example, HubSpot, they are probably going to include ActiveCampaign as part of their review as well. So it's definitely considered in B2B. It's not completely isolated, but they just don't have as many capabilities as you're going to find with the other B2B centric solutions. Some of the competing technologies that we have already reviewed, for example, we have reviewed, Klaviyo, we have reviewed Braze. Klaviyo was more of the B2C player. They are far more penetrated, I would say, in the Shopify ecosystem. They are penetrated in several different commerce ecosystems. ActiveCampaign is just not going to have as much market share in those ecosystems, just because they are not as dedicated. They are not going to be as friendly for those B2C verticals. MailChimp as well as Klaviyo, they are going to have much more market share overall. You might find a lot more capabilities inside ActiveCampaign, overall in terms of different functionality that go in the marketing automation bucket, but you are going to find a lot more integration, a lot more alignment inside Klaviyo when you look at the omni-channel traceability as well as the CDP-centric workflows. That's where Klaviyo is different. We noticed that Braze was very different as well. And again, I don't think there is much of a comparison between Braze as well as your ActiveCampaign. These two are completely different offerings, but there might be cases where customers might utilize Braze as well along with ActiveCampaign. But Braze is going to be primarily for if you care for real-time interaction with your let's say if you have a video inside app and you care for those real-time interaction, or you are going to have real-time interaction with any sort of media channels, that's where Braze is going to be super important. Other platforms are not going to have those capabilities. That's why Braze is a very, very, very different platform, even though they both could be used for very similar use cases. Now, Zoho is probably going to become comparable. Zoho primarily has market share in the B2B centric spaces, but they are doing some B2C as well. They are not going to have as many tighter integration that you're going to find with Klaviyo's of the world or MailChimp's of the world. But Zoho is definitely going to be a competitor for ActiveCampaign. When companies are reviewing, they are definitely including HubSpot with their analysis or selection that they might be doing for any of the ESPs. So they are definitely going to be compared with HubSpot. HubSpot is going to be more expensive. It's going to be slightly more friendly for B2B centric use cases. ActiveCampaign is probably not going to have as much capabilities. And sometimes the problem with attacking too many different markets is that you are not going to have all of those specific capabilities for one particular market, and you might not be good in any of those markets, and that's a challenge when you create slightly more generalized solution. But the generalized solutions are probably going to be slightly more scalable if you are going to have very complex business model. So some of the business models or the logos that we are going to see with ActiveCampaign are going to be the ones that are going to have flavors of both B2B as well as B2C. And these are going to be industries, for example, let's say if you go to automotive or automotive aftermarket, sometimes they could have, both the layers. You are going to find those in the franchise centric spaces. They are going to have retail customers as well as wholesale customers. So sometimes this could be far more powerful because they are going to have both of these layers, and the specific platform, for example, HubSpot for B2B or Klaviyo for B2C, might not have all of those layers for slightly more complex business models. So they have their own sort of strengths. So now, depending upon your business model, business transactions, you should be deciding which one is going to be a better fit for you. Then the other comparable, I would say, Constant Contact is probably going to have lighter capabilities. It's not as feature rich as your ActiveCampaign or HubSpot. So in terms of the ranking, in terms of the depth of features, I would say Constant Contact, MailChimp is probably going to be very similar. I would say Constant Contact is probably going to be lighter than MailChimp. MailChimp is probably next in hierarchy. Then you are going to have something like ActiveCampaign. They are going to have far more features in general. And then finally, you have the likes of HubSpot. They are going to be far more customizable. They might be able to handle the workload of much bigger logos. The same thing goes for Klaviyo as well. Klaviyo has much bigger logos now. So that is probably the little hierarchy there in terms of how these solutions are laid out. And then Pardot obviously is going to be your enterprise player. GetResponse, Omnisend, they don't have as much market share. They are not as popular, but they are definitely compared with ActiveCampaign. And then you have the MailerLite as well. In terms of different CRM solutions, I would say Pipedrive is probably going to be the closest. And generally, people sort of get confused between the CRM and marketing automation. These two are completely different products in general. CRMs are designed for slightly more transactional workflows. The marketing automation is going to be slightly more collaborative, interaction centric workflows. In general, when you are going to use something like ActiveCampaign, even though you are going to find CRM with that, but CRM is going to be really light. The same issue that we find with HubSpot as well. Even though marketing automation product with HubSpot is great, but CRM is not so great. So that's why what companies do is, if they are buying a marketing automation product, they are most likely going to use it with a CRM product. In this particular case, it could be Pipedrive, Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, 365. Those are some common combinations that you are going to find, companies using them together. In terms of the industries, I would say retail is where you're going to find them a lot, just because they started as commerce, e-commerce. So the traditional retail also, they are doing really well. and they have some of the very specific capabilities for the franchise-centric spaces. So again, those franchise-centric spaces are going to require these unique capabilities that you're not going to find with the likes of HubSpot or Klaviyo. So they have their own sort of sweet spot in terms of where they shine. So if you are going to be in those franchise-centric verticals, whether you are going to be slightly more automotive centric franchise or retail franchise, or it could be not for profit franchise, whatever is going to have some sort of physical locations, that's where ActiveCampaign is really strong overall in terms of their capabilities. Even though for marketing automation product, the franchise centric capabilities might not be as critical. You might be able to manage probably with ad hoc arrangements, but even then sometimes you might run into issues. So that's why it's probably better if you go with ActiveCampaign if you are going to be in those market spaces, especially if the other products are not going to have those capabilities flavored for franchise centric business models. And that's why they do really well in the not-for-profit centric spaces, education as well, just because of those unique layers, and they do some business in healthcare too. So I'll keep moving here unless you have any comments here. So now these are the historical stories that we are trying to cover. So we are going back in time. And this is somewhere in 2018, 2017. So here they are saying they had positioned themselves as more of the intelligence-driven marketing and sales automation. And they had closed roughly $20 million from a very small private equity firm. I don't think they are as big. And it's a very interesting positioning because they are saying intelligence-driven marketing and sales automation. And Shrestha, I don't know whether you remember this or not. I think you were in Bloomreach review, and they had positioned themselves as more of the machine learning platform, which was kind of interesting. So in this particular case, these guys are positioning themselves as more of the intelligence driven, which is great. But I don't know how much intelligence they are going to have. In general, when you look at that, you are probably going to think that you are going to be very similar to CDP centric offerings. But again, I don't think they have a real CDP. So it could be slightly misleading in how they are positioning themselves. Now, then they are saying, but I mean, if you really look at some of the traditional platforms, and that's how they must have positioned themselves, traditional platforms may not have as many intelligence layers, so they are probably going to claim that they have some intelligence, and that's why they are positioning it this way. But again, that could be slightly misleading in my mind. Then they are saying tens of thousands of small and medium-sized businesses worldwide, and they have a lot of customers in general, and the size of those customers are going to be relatively on a smaller side, just because again they are going after very, very, very small customers, just like MailChimp. Then since 2015, and 2015 is when they started, and they have experienced a growth of roughly 550%, which is just mind-blowing. No questions there. I mean, they have done wonders. But overall, in terms of employee size is probably not as much, but the growth has been phenomenal. But I guess, I mean, this is the kind of growth that we are seeing with every single marketing automation platform out there. I don't know what happened during this time, if the email became really big, or companies started utilizing email a little bit more. There's a possibility, but right now in 2024, I don't know how many companies are going to be really excited about emails. In general, the emails are struggling in 2024 just because of the changes in the spam laws. Everything has sort of moved to cloud, so that becomes challenging as well. But it's kind of interesting how this growth has been for the large majority of the players that we have reviewed so far. Then some more comments here. They are saying there has been a true disconnect between all-in-one solutions of the past and the more modern needs of an intelligence-driven approach for marketing, sales, and customer success teams. And again, I don't think this is a complete package. So they are saying that they have all of this marketing, sales, and customer success teams. If that is the case, then they would become slightly more mainstream CRM. Like your HubSpot. HubSpot has a lot of those layers, but even HubSpot does not have all of that, right? Salesforce is probably going to have that. Microsoft a little bit, I would say. But in general, I don't think they have all of these layers equally. I mean, it's primarily a marketing automation platform. So that's why we are calling them as marketing automation platform, as opposed to a complete CRM suite that they are probably not. Then some more comments here from 2018. ActiveCampaign, a leader in intelligence. Again, they are saying, announced that it has surpassed 50,000 customers worldwide. And again, that 50,000 number is great. But in this particular case, in my mind, these are going to be very small customers. So if you compare this with likes of Braze, Braze is never going to have 50,000 customers. But they are going to have probably far more revenue, I guess, just because the average customer is much larger for Braze than you are going to find with ActiveCampaign. I'll keep moving here. So some more stories, and in this particular case, the comment is coming from the CEO, and they are saying Automation Map is the first visualization tool built directly in the ActiveCampaign platform. I don't know if it is first or not. I mean, the majority of the marketing automation platforms are probably going to have this. So slightly overstated, I would say. And then they are saying map page, see the status of all the automations in one account. Again, 90% of the platforms are probably going to have this. Then they are saying which automations are connected to each other and modify when needed. I don't see any sort of difference. The only difference I'm able to notice here is the connectivity of those automations. And sometimes when you look at MailChimp or similar platforms, these automations are going to be slightly more fragmented. They are not necessarily connected. So in this particular case, they are saying it's connected. And I don't know how useful that is going to be for businesses, but that is something to look at, that they are able to claim that the automations are connected. But in my mind, again, when I look at the workflows presented by either MailChimp or Klaviyo, when you look at this more from the B2C perspective, some of those automations are going to be connected, because when you take any sort of action, then you can probably trigger the next automation as well. So you can do chaining and sequencing. I mean, you can do that probably in HubSpot as well. There are always going to be nuances with these things, but you can probably do chaining there as well. So I don't know how unique that is. I don't know. They are claiming it as unique, but it's probably not. Then some more comments here. They are saying ActiveCampaign, a leader in intelligence-driven sales and marketing automation, released abandoned cart today. So again, this is going to be a validation that they were doing a lot more feature releases for the B2C market. And when you look at abandoned cart, that's going to be very much into Shopify-centric ecosystems, or that's going to be for B2C play. So they were doing a lot more work in the B2C space. That's how they were known previously. They are saying automate your abandoned cart emails and ultimately increase sales. And they are saying with so many ways to shop online, it's no surprise that more than 75% of the consumers abandon purchases. And again, that's a very similar pitch as what Klaviyo is going to have or MailChimp is going to have. Here they have some more. So they are saying trigger new automations showing abandoned cart, product data. Then they are saying segment users based on 7 conditions. And sometimes those conditions could be a real differentiator. In these smaller platforms, you are not going to find as many conditions. In larger platforms, you are probably going to have the whole SQL, I guess, exposed. So that's where the layers are with comparison of these platforms. Yeah, I don't have anything else here, unless you have any comments. I'll keep moving here. Did we jump one slide? Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think we are on this one. All right. So this is also coming from 2018. And here they are saying they have released something called win probability, enabling small to medium-sized businesses to use machine learning to predict the likelihood of winning a deal. Interesting. I mean, honestly speaking, if you look at slightly more B2C spaces, then you probably don't need this. You are not going to have much of a deal there, I guess. But that is probably going to be relevant in the B2B spaces. And this would be very similar to what probably Salesforce has. I don't know how useful that is, to be completely honest, because the algorithm that Salesforce might be using, it might be different from how the companies want to analyze their win probability, so it's not as useful. It's a fancy feature, but again, I mean, they have that. So, that seems to be more of the B2B feature. So it seems like they were doing some work in the B2B space, but again, very interesting. I don't know how useful that is going to be. Then in 2018, so they did some of the integration. So in this particular case, they went after WooCommerce. So here they are saying, it deepened its WooCommerce integration with ActiveCampaign for WooCommerce plugin. Now, WooCommerce can automate abandoned cart emails directly in ActiveCampaign via the plugin. When you look at Klaviyo, I think Klaviyo started in the Shopify ecosystem, then they moved to BigCommerce, and those two are really large ones, I would say, from the commerce perspective. WooCommerce, in my mind, it would be slightly more down market. These are not necessarily the commerce players. These are more of the hobbyists. As far as my experience goes with the WooCommerce market share or the market penetration. So it seems that, I mean, they were targeting WooCommerce, so obviously it would feel that as if they were going down market and they were more of the price player. So that's why, I mean, they wanted to go with these smaller players. So that is the validation from that story. Then some more, stories here. So here they are saying, this is again in 2018. So they are saying they have announced something called Conversations, a new conversational platform built on the ActiveCampaign platform in private beta to reinvent how small customers communicate with their customers through conversations. Small and medium-sized businesses can leverage the power of leading marketing automation platform to meaningfully connect and engage with their customers in the most relevant channel at the most convenient times, capturing all of the touch point. Now, if you pay attention to this messaging, it does feel like as if it's done for B2C. So we have two stories coming from 2018. For the most part, these are very, very, very B2C centric capabilities. So that further validates that they were doing a lot more work in the B2C space, not as much in B2B. Even though they have released some feature, I don't know how win probability may be used in B2C. There's a possibility, but for the most part, that's probably a B2B feature. Now we are in 2019. So 2019, they had announced its integration for Square. And I think we saw Square integration. Just, I don't know if you remember or not. I think Square was with Klaviyo, if I remember correctly. I think they did that because not only they wanted to integrate with your BigCommerce and Shopify, but they also wanted to go with slightly more POS-centric play. And this is where I guess these guys started penetrating in slightly more physical centric business models, which is going to be your retail centric business models. And that's why the Square integration is going to be a key, because they are going after those small POS systems, and Square probably going to have the smallest of the smallest customers, I guess, in the POS segment. That's why they went here, and that's why they went with WooCommerce as well. Most likely. So they are saying in-store purchase data to provide the context small businesses need to create the personalized experiences customers have come to expect. One more story coming from 2019, and they are saying today announced they are calling themselves as CX automation, redefining marketing automation. Until today, marketing automation was known as a set of static paths and messages. Users should expect automations that deliver a unique experience for every customer. This means each customer receives a unique message, path, and time that's optimized for them throughout their entire life cycle. Now, this is a very interesting comment and very interesting announcement as well. And sometimes when we look at different categories that leading analyst firms are talking about. And the goal that each of these analyst firms have is they are trying to sort of normalize the market, standardize the market, trying to make these solutions as comparable as possible. That's a job that they have, and sometimes they could come across as not receptive to newer definitions or the categories. But their role is going to be to make sure anything that is stated is not going to be misleading. So in this particular case, they are calling themselves a CX automation. Now, if you go back to any of the quadrants, any of the reputed analyst firms, they all are going to feel, if you talk about CX, then you are getting into the real telco, customer service centric play, Zendesk, play. But for the most part, I mean, this is still a very marketing automation solution. So I don't know how you can call yourselves a CX automation. That's where my problem is going to be. Everybody is using different framing, I would say, whether you look at Klaviyo or you look at Braze, they had very, very, very interesting framings. But for the most part, I think CX is probably going to be slightly more misleading, at least in my mind, based on the capabilities that these guys have. So I'll call that out right now. But I think they are really moving forward with CX automation, but they don't have any of the real CX play in their portfolio. So this is also coming from 2019. So they are saying they have launched an integration on Salesforce App Exchange, empowering businesses to connect with their customers, partners, etc. Now, Salesforce has their own product. Obviously, Salesforce is very open ecosystem platform that anybody can integrate with them, and there are a lot of different marketing automation software. Salesforce is not the company that is trying to push only their product, I guess. They are open to the ideas when other companies are going to be positioning their products along with Salesforce CRM. For some customers, if they want to use something like ActiveCampaign and they don't want to use Pardot, then that there's a possibility. But my problem with this story is going to be, you were in very, very, very down market. You were probably doing WooCommerce, and all of a sudden you are doing Salesforce. So it's very inconsistent, I guess, which markets they want to target. But Salesforce is going to be present in some of these smaller verticals as well. So my take on this is going to be that these are very small customers. They are not necessarily going after the enterprise customers. So that's this story. Then we have some more comments here from another story coming from 2019 as well. They are saying the best software companies in APAC region. And APAC region is very interesting. I don't think we have seen this from any other vendors in the market. This is going to be especially applicable if they are going to have any sort of SMS or telco-centric capabilities, because in those cases, it's very hard to penetrate. And I think we saw that problem, I believe, with Klaviyo, that they were taking one country at a time, because each country is going to have its own players, carriers, regulations. So it's very hard to roll out unless you're going to use something like Twilio. But even with Twilio, I guess the rollout is going to be extremely difficult. It's not going to be like marketing automation. Once you create it, you can use wherever you want. You don't have to go through the same compliance regulatory issues. But with the SMS, you definitely have that. So it seems that these guys were doing really well in the Asia Pacific region. And I don't know any other platform that have really intentionally targeted this particular region. I know that when we were looking at Pipedrive probably had far more presence in Japan, in so many different regions, if I remember correctly. So there could be some alignment there. But if you are going to be in these regions, then this could be a platform that you should be looking at, because they are probably going to have some capabilities aligned to those regions. And here they are saying Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and they are doing really well. And again, so I think you should be reviewing, let's say if you are going to be in these regions, you should definitely be reviewing this as well as Pipedrive, because they are going to have probably unique layers for these regions. Now, 2019 again. So here they are saying they were calling CX automation, and now they are calling themselves as customer experience automation, which is one and the same. So they announced predictive content, okay, and they are saying that predicts the most engaging message for each individual being emailed based on only a handful of user inputs. 2019 predictive content is very interesting. Now, this is coming across as if this is more of the personalization play, I guess, the way Bloomreach was trying to position them. But I don't think these guys are going to have the same content or CMS centric capabilities, I would say. Their capabilities are probably going to be comparable with your Klaviyo's of the world or MailChimp of the world. And they might have flavors of predictive content, but it's definitely not something what you would find, let's say, inside Bloomreach. So again, review that if you're reviewing this platform and pay attention to what you're getting and what you would need, even though they could probably read very similar in terms of the capabilities. Then we have one more story coming from 2020. So 2020, they are saying the leader in customer experience automation. So now they are calling this as customer experience automation, which is mind blowing. Automation is a very different term, I would say. That is used in more of the workflow automation, I would say. But these guys have started using it. So they are saying has raised roughly $100 million in a Series B. So they were doing really well, I guess. Now you have slightly bigger private equity companies involved, and they are targeting CXA category. And I don't even know if that is a real category. As far as I remember, Shrestha, when we look at the customer experience centered categories, those are going to be the ones where your likes of Braze is positioned, likes of Mo Engage is positioned. You are probably going to find flavors of Zendesk there, but I don't remember seeing ActiveCampaign there. I know that Adobe was there, but again, I don't know why they are targeting this category. It would not make a ton of sense in my mind, at least. I don't know if this is the recognized category. We could not find any sort of quadrants where they are positioned in these categories. So it's very interesting that they are claiming themselves to be in this category, but again, it's slightly more misaligned in my mind. So then they are saying product innovations that advance beyond legacy marketing automation, traditional CRM, and service technology. They are attacking too many different buckets. I think the jab is probably on Salesforce, but again, I don't think that's right. This is probably slightly overstated in my mind. Well, we'll keep reviewing and we'll see if they have any sort of features related to customer experience automation. So let's keep going here. Again, they are very consistent about customer experience automation. Announced that it has surpassed roughly 100,000 active customers, which is mind blowing. They have a lot of customers, no questions there, and crossed roughly $100 million in annual recurring revenue. Again, a lot of revenue there. And 90% of the email marketing platforms, they're doing really well for whatever reason. So I'm not surprised here at all. Even just in Shopify ecosystem, every single player is doing well. These guys may not be doing as well, I would say, but they are still doing very well. 100,000 customers is a lot. My understanding is that MailChimp had a lot more than 100,000. So they are far more penetrated. If I remember correctly, even Klaviyo had a lot more, even though the average customer for Klaviyo is probably going to be much bigger in my mind. Then 2020, they are saying ActiveCampaign, the leader in customer experience automation, again, they are repeating that, extends its e-commerce functionality. So they are sticking to their lane for B2C to help emerging online sellers create, and now they are probably wording them correctly. They are saying emerging online sellers, and that's probably their market space in my mind. Those are the kind of customers that they are targeting, and that we have already validated when they were going after Square, going after WooCommerce. From the integration perspective, that's probably the right lane that they should be targeting. And then they are saying create and deliver one-to-one personalized omni-channel experiences through all stages of the customer lifecycle. So for those sellers, it's great. I think they are going to get really good deal compared to something like Klaviyo, because Klaviyo is probably going to be very expensive. But again, based on this description, in 2020, they were still very B2C centric players. Then they are saying personalized recommendations and timely support through all channels is what drives e-commerce growth and buyer loyalty, and loyalty is going to be very B2C centric concept as well. Then they have uh, uh, integration with Facebook Messenger. I don't believe Facebook Messenger is going to be as relevant in B2B centric spaces. That's why you're probably not going to find Facebook Messenger integration inside HubSpot, because they don't target those customers. So here they are saying enabling customer support teams to see messages from this channel within the ActiveCampaign inbox and respond faster to customer queries. And I think that's what Klaviyo is doing as well. They are doing the whole conversation piece, any of the chat channels, and this is going to be slightly more, what is that called, direct response marketing, I guess. So I think the play is very similar. I don't know if this is going to be a real customer experience, even though they are calling it as more of the customer experience platform. But this is definitely not a replacement for something like Zendesk. Companies would need that as well. That's where you have the real customer experience automation. This is not necessarily the real customer experience automation, unless you are talking about the customer experience, marketing automation part of customer experience, I guess. There are always layers to these things, right? So if you're talking about that, there could be a possibility that you might call yourself as customer experience automation. But when analysts think of customer experience, they are always going to think in that customer service category, tools such as your Zendesk. That's where customer experience, customer service really belongs. Now they have integration with Microsoft Dynamics 365, and obviously when we reviewed their product, I mean, they were arguing that they have marketing automation product in the form of customer insights, but that is really a CDP product, and that's why they have a play for something like ActiveCampaign, because ActiveCampaign does not have a real CDP product, but their marketing automation product is great. In Microsoft ecosystem, you're not going to find as great marketing automation platforms, and that's why ActiveCampaign is probably doing really well. Microsoft also targets a lot of retail centric spaces, as well as B2C centric spaces, so that's why it is really they are doing really well there as well. So they are saying who use Microsoft Dynamics to combine their customer relationship management solution. And again, Microsoft Dynamics 365 is used as a CRM, and these guys are used as the marketing automation category, which is the right use case, at least in my mind. With the power of customer experience automation, again, they keep repeating themselves as customer experience automation because Microsoft is going to argue that they have the customer experience layer as well. So how come you are customer experience automation? That would be my challenge with this. Then they are saying combining SMS marketing with the power and agility of customer experience to Dynamics. And here they are also saying Twilio SMS that they are using. So they are saying combining SMS marketing. So everybody's sort of using Twilio. Nobody has their own sort of integrations. So whatever you are going to have through Twilio is where you're going to get the SMS capabilities. And these guys are doing the same as well. Then you have Zendesk cell integration. In my mind, Zendesk would be the right category for the customer experience automation. So they are obviously integrating with them because they don't have these capabilities. So I don't know how you can call yourself as customer experience automation. Yeah. All right, I'll keep going here. So some more stories. Then they have ActiveCampaign, the leader in customer experience automation, again surpassed $165 million in annual recurring revenue and announces roughly $240 million in Series C, and this is at the valuation of roughly $3 billion. Can you believe it? Like every single marketing automation company is valued billions and billions of dollars. And these guys are no exception. They are saying companies in 170 countries. When you look at their logos, and this is Koya, and Koya is a B2C player. If you look at their business model, Museum of Science and Industry, they are going to be very consumerized business model as well. They are going to have flavors of subscriptions, and these guys have some capabilities around that as well. So this is probably a right fit. Whole30 is a very B2C play. So a lot of their logos that you're going to find are going to be in that B2C, franchise-centric spaces. You will see a trend once you analyze a lot of their logos. Again, they're repeating themselves as customer experience automation. Today introduces what? Sales engagement automation, the only sales engagement solution that makes it part of the overall customer life cycle. Now, when you look at the sales engagement automation, at least in my mind, that is going to be very B2B centric capability. And this is where solutions such as your Yesware, and I don't know where you're going to put Gong right now, but they are probably bigger category than your sales engagement. So these guys have the sales engagement capabilities as well. Even when you're going to go with the likes of HubSpot, they are probably not going to have the real sales engagement capabilities because they are making room for other players in the market. So these guys seem to have enabled that. Obviously, from the capabilities perspective, it's great, but these are two completely different capabilities. Then this is an acquisition somewhere around this time as well, and they said that they had acquired a company called Postmark and DMark digital service offerings, and Postmark was one of the fastest growing transactional email services on the market. And if you guys are not familiar with the transactional emails, these are going to be things such as your order updates, order created, order updated, shipping address updated, whatever is happening in those transactions. You want to send the emails, and any of the upselling that you need to do along with that, you might be able to do that. Again, in my mind, that's a very B2C centric play. A lot of marketing automation platforms, for example, let's say if you go to MailChimp, I don't know if they are going to have support for transactional email. So if you care for transactional email, this could be a great feature, again, that is targeted more for B2C. One thing you might want to keep in mind, with ActiveCampaign, you are probably okay with this because they don't necessarily charge per email or email send, or your tier is not going to be updated just because you are sending too many emails. With other platforms, you might get yourself in trouble because in general, these marketing automation categories are very expensive. They get very expensive. So if you are going to increase the number of emails, whether it is going to be because of transactions or whatever, you probably need to watch closely if they are going to have real impact on revenue and real impact on your business or not. Otherwise, they could be unnecessary. So again, with ActiveCampaign, at least until now, it was okay because you didn't have the limit on your email send, but now the pricing has changed, so you are probably going to be thinking about that. So pay attention to that as well. Then they have the second acquisition here, which is the DMark Digest in an email authentication and monitoring service. This is a very interesting acquisition as well. In my mind, I think this would be, I don't know if this is more of the warming category. It could be a warming category, the way it reads. So it's very interesting as well that they have acquired. We have not seen this kind of acquisition with the other players, so they are going slightly deeper, I would say. And we have seen from the users as well that these guys have slightly better deliverability. I don't know how true that is, but one reason could be that they have these capabilities that they are enabling warming as part of their product offering. That could be the case why they have better deliverability. But again, pay attention to these things when you are talking to them or when you are reviewing the solution. This is a very interesting capability that we have not seen with the other platforms. I don't have anything else here. I'll keep going. Some more stories. So here they are saying leader in customer experience automation. Again, same pitch. Then they are saying the leader in marketing automation, email marketing, and CRM is investing in AI that everybody is doing in 2023. No exceptions there. By launching tools that generate content for marketing messaging and sales outreach, they are doing for sales outreach as well because they have the sales enablement capabilities as part of their package too. So nothing new there. Most of the marketing automation vendors are probably doing that. And obviously, these guys are not behind if they are taking care of those capabilities. So in 2023, one more story. So they are saying leading, now they have called themselves as marketing automation platform. So they were calling customer experience automation platform before, but in 2000, for whatever reason, I mean, they have sort of gone back in calling themselves as marketing automation platform. But we'll review some more story, and I don't know if that is consistent or not. But this is the right category. That's how they should be marketing. They are not necessarily customer experience automation. Has acquired OneSend, a suite of tools. So this is the OneSend platform, empowering franchise. So this is where they got these franchise-centric capabilities. These were very new. So these are multi-location brands and resellers. And even today, if you look at HubSpot, HubSpot did not have multi-brand capabilities. They have recently launched. So it's very new even for HubSpot. Here, you are talking about multi-location. Multi-location is going to be even different. And any of the capabilities that you're going to have when you're going to have a lot of resellers, that's even different. So these guys have those capabilities, and they are targeting very unique businesses. So some description of these capabilities. So they are saying OneSend HQ, a platform that enables multi-location and franchise brands to scale their email and SMS messaging. So in general, the way this works is, if you look at franchise business model, franchises are going to control the messaging, branding. They want complete control on that. If anybody is going to be sending emails, they should comply with the branding guidelines of the company that has the franchise control, I guess. So now with this, the execution belongs to the people who are running in the ground, the companies that own those franchises. So they need control on the execution aspect of the things, meaning they should be able to send the emails, they should be able to change the messaging a little bit, but from the corporate perspective, they are trying to control the branding. So that's why these controls are going to be really important. If you are going to do this it with other platforms, they are not going to have those capabilities. So if you are going to be in franchise centric spaces, this platform could be a great fit. They are talking about POSIF IQ, I guess, by OneSend, an intelligence platform that integrates point of sale systems. So they have the point of sale integration, but more from the marketing automation perspective. So again, they are in most of the franchise businesses are going to have some sort of POS play as well. That's why this whole POS integration matters. So again, for the franchise businesses, they are going to require very, very unique capabilities. So that's where this is really critical. They are saying which expands ActiveCampaign partner portal capabilities, and they are going to have a little bit of partner portal as well. But partner portal is going to be more from the reseller perspective, so that they can send these emails, and you have a little bit of handover in terms of power when you are dealing in any of the reseller channels. So you are only going to expose certain part of functionality so that they can do their job and they can report back how those campaigns are working. So that's going to be the interest of the parent companies that are selling these franchises. So again, it's a very different structure, very different business model. So make sure if you're going to be in these spaces, ActiveCampaign is probably the only platform that is probably going to have these capabilities. We have not seen these capabilities with the other platforms so far. And they are saying OneSend customers, and with this acquisition, they got some regional brands as well. So this is Office Choice. You are going to have Toy World, Sports Power, and then Intersport, and these are multi-location retail franchises. Again, very different structure, very different business model. So these are the right fit, and I don't think we have seen any of the platforms intentionally targeting those physical retail business models. So that's where probably their differentiator is. Then they are saying they are also integrated with OneSignal, and OneSignal is allowing them for that whole SMS in-app with Klaviyo, etc. I think they had their own capabilities. So in this particular case, they are doing this with OneSignal, and OneSignal is offering them push notification, in-app messaging, live activities. But I don't think they are going to be as powerful as something like Braze. But at least they are going to have some flavor of omnichannel. You might still be dealing with two different vendors, two different contracts. But at least you are going to have the integration in this particular case with OneSignal. Let's do one more. So this is their the whole UI and the product design review. So you're going to find some very unique capabilities. For example, let's say if you look at some of the industry-centric flavors, so they have some of those flavors, but I don't know how useful those are going to be. So review that and see what they have come up with. This is very similar to what MailChimp was doing for each of the integration. For example, MailChimp had very Shopify specific workflows for Shopify customers just because they were very tightly aligned, I guess, from the Intuit as well as from the Shopify perspective. So this is probably a very similar play where you're going to find a lot of different assets and the marketing automation workflow, so you don't have to create them from scratch. Now, you have several integrations here that you can communicate with as part of the action. So once you are done taking action, and then you need to, fire back another system. For example, in this particular case, you can fire your Microsoft Dynamics 365. You can fire a call to your Pipedrive to be able to take any sort of action. So there are many different integrations available. But again, sometimes there could be limitations with respect to the actions as well, the way these actions are going to be designed. So even though it looks great during review, but once you start configuring, implementing, that's when you are going to find these challenges that, okay, I'm not able to do this. How do I do this? Because that layer is not available with the platform. So that's where you are going to have very deep challenges. So pay attention to these things. Just don't go by, the huge list that you are able to see, and you're going to think in your mind that you're probably going to be okay, but that's not how the majority of the software work. The smaller platforms are going to have limited number of layers with respect to their triggers, their actions, and that's where people get into trouble when they are trying to implement. So 3 minutes right now. We can probably do one more slide and then we can open up for comments. So this is the review, and I think we can cover only one review. We might not be able to cover after this one. So here, this is coming from their community, their own community. And some of the things that you're going to find is some same contact, multiple sales quote. And this is going to be a very CRM specific transactional capability. And that's why I always say this, that marketing automation platforms were not designed for transactional use cases. For that, you have to use a real CRM, even though you are going to find some CRM capabilities with these platforms. So they are saying this particular user is inquiring about, we are using the API to add context to our nurturing campaigns, for sales quotes. We need to allow the same contact to enter in automation multiple times with different values for the custom fields like quote ID, quote amount, quote date. Is this possible? Now the response that we have from ActiveCampaign, and this is the official thread. This might be slightly older, I believe. I don't know, and if they have upgraded these capabilities, so you might want to pay attention there. But they are saying the short answer is that we do not need to see a unique email address for each contact, but a single contact record can be tied to multiple individual deals with custom data. And custom data is going to have its own sort of problems. You can trigger automations and track individual journeys to a single contact. And they are saying custom objects similar to deals, but a bit more advanced, several products or purchases with unique data point to a single contact outreach messaging. This may require a developer to implement it, but if you are already using API to control customer journeys, this might be a great way to exercise the control you need. But again, once you start implementing, then you would know how limited these things get. And even inside HubSpot, the custom objects that they are fairly limited. So you will not be able to implement CRM specific scenarios such as sales quote when you are going to have one company for multiple contexts. That's where the real challenges are. And this is another thread that they have, in which they have mentioned that they are trying to use one company for multiple contexts. So even though you are going to have some sort of correlation, but that correlation is going to be extremely weak, you will not be able to map out your sophisticated scenarios when you are going to have very complex hierarchy of customers, multiple customers, parent customers, etc. We had one more slide, but I don't think we are going to have time to review that. But overall, these layers is where the real challenge you are going to have. One more thing that is mentioned on this particular slide is the context associated with the business and deals are going to be parallel. So you are not going to have the deals at the contact level with systems such as your HubSpot, Salesforce, you are probably going to find that maybe Zoho is going to have that. So again, that's where the size is really important of these platforms, that even though the capabilities are going to look very similar on paper, once you start mapping them out, once you start configuring, that's where you're going to run into issues. So that's pretty much it. Shrestha, I don't know if you're going to have any sort of comments.
I think you have covered most of it. I just felt like it has a good grip in the B2C sector with its functionalities. But then again, as you pointed out, like just before that, we need to know the difference between what a marketing automation system can do as compared to a CRM. So, as the review also said, that like they were trying to do something else but not able to achieve it. So, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, could not agree more. I think great comment and great insights there. I don't know if you're going to have any other follow-ups. No follow-ups, right? Then we can wrap.
Yeah, yeah, that's it from
Okay,
my side.
perfect. So that's it for today, guys. If you joined for the first time, this was part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are going to be here next week. We are going to come back with another vendor or the solution, and we are going to review independently. So stay tuned for that. On that note, thanks everyone for tuning in today.
Thank you, everyone.